love you more.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
All right, man. There we go. We're underway, Paul. Hey, last time I think I had the opportunity to talk to you, you were promoting Werewolves of Portland, and pretty cool record. I think the video that you put out was pretty cool. You had your kid on it. I think you were talking about that when we last spoke.
That's true. That I did. I think I did 2 videos. I did that one
you did.
where we're dressed up at wolves.
Right. That's it.
And my argument about pie video where I drew everything.
Right. That's awesome.
And that, that album, like to me, just getting anything to happen during the lockdown was a heroic battle to attempt. And then it got me playing drums again, which. It really rekindled one of the loves of my life. I love playing drums.
Real quick, because I didn't get a chance to ask you, what brought you to Oregon and Portland specifically, Portland area?
Well, I toured all over America many times, and I always enjoyed visiting here. Mm-hmm. And I always liked, I grew up on the East Coast, and somehow when I moved to the West Coast, I felt like, initially just musically more connected to what was going on in LA when I moved there. And then, when I moved back to LA when I got married, and it started to turn into kind of a drought. And so my wife and I started coming up to Portland, and it was just like, everyone was, oh, it's just rained so much. It's like, that's good.
Right.
We could use that.
Right.
Yeah. Now Portland, during the lockdown really got, we get, the anarchy descended, and it's still feeling the effects of that somewhat. And it's been kind of my first experience with anarchy. I always thought it was just like a great inspirer of Sex Pistols songs.
There you go. I don't know if you're
in real life. I don't know if I'm a fan. No.
I don't know if you've ever viewed
more normalcy would be all right.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever viewed any of those Purge movies, but it almost seemed like it was like that for like 6 or 9 months in the Northwest. I mean, it was insane. Wow. So
yeah, so it's definitely calmed down from then, but still has its issues.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm just hanging here trying to keep my little corner of it in place.
Well, good. One of the things that you're doing is you're releasing this Dio album in April 7th, I believe. And so what inspired you to do this?
I love Ronnie James Dio's music, of course, but I'd been copying a lot of singers to help my ability to play melodies on guitar. Mm-hmm. I think maybe the early seed of it was when I did the G3 tour with Joe Satriani back in 2007, and the way Joe plays and the way Joe writes is really stepping into the shoes of a singer. Certainly there's guitarish things, but for the songs have melodies, and as simple as of a recipe as that might sound like when you talk about it, that was really different than the way I thought, than the role of guitar that I thought it should be. And touring with Joe opened my eyes to that. And I kind of went like, wow, the audience digs it. Joe sounds great. Maybe a melody can survive being played on a guitar.
Right.
And so I, gradually got into that more and more. I ended up doing like the Stone Pushing Uphill Man record, which is all vocal melodies. And at one point I actually made a list of all the singers that I wanted to copy just for my own enjoyment and musical enrichment. And Ronnie James Dio was the first name that I wrote down.
Nice.
And the more I thought about it, that I started to think like, well, of course I can do Dio stuff, but then there's the Sabbath records that he sang on, there's the Rainbow stuff, a lot of cool music to pull from, and cool guitar riffs to do it too. And just the more I thought about it, the more excited I got. And I'd been teaching a lot of this stuff at my school as well. I'd got an online guitar school, and I'd been using like Long Live Rock and Roll to me is one of the best guitar lessons if you play the vocal line, because it's initially it seems simple, like it's only a few notes, but to get it to feel right, to breathe life into it by getting the slides and the vibrato and the all those elements of expression to get those to feel right and be comfortable with them. So opens up a whole new door.
You've become pretty comfortable using the slide. How did that come to be? Because I know it wasn't something that you did early on in your career, but since, you've become kind of a master at that.
Well, it's definitely surprising, because whenever there's something that you can't do, it's easy to believe, I'll never be able to do that. And slide was one of those things. And I'm trying to remember, like, I think, what it was is I finally found the finger that worked best for me.
Okay.
Because I had always had slides that fit on the third finger.
Right.
And somehow I ended up with this big slide. It was like the only one I could find. And it was so big that it would just wouldn't make sense on the third finger. So I put it on the second finger. Okay. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm starting getting the hang of this. And so that was the physical element. And I think the other element is I'd been focusing on improving my blues playing. And, if you try to play like a classical scale, if you tried to play a Bach melody, that doesn't lend itself to slide. But if you play like a bluesy vocal line or a bluesy melody, suddenly it's like, oh, this kind of works. And so the thing I learned about playing blues is 50% of it at least is ear training. It's like knowing what it should sound like. And so that, having had spent time there and kind of knowing what my target is, and then using the finger that worked for me, I started to go, wow, this is working. And I started I've learned very few. I haven't copied slide guitar players. I've copied singers. So I learned like Mercedes-Benz by Janis Joplin.
Okay.
And Some Kind of Wonderful, the Grand Funk version with John Brewer singing. Yep. And Running with the Devil, David Lee Roth, or Van Halen, but Roth parts on slide. Or Blackbird. But man, Blackbird, the Beatles song.
Okay. Yeah.
The ending lick that he does, the Into the Light of the Dark Black Night. That's you really have to work to get that with standard tuning anyway. And so all those, just started to put and Ozzy stuff like doing Sweet Leaf. Oh yeah. And so that's kind of what opened that up, is just trying to copy singers.
Sure. And one of the things that you're able to do eloquently is, like you said, copy the singers on the guitar, especially with these Dio tunes. It's just like you can envision, the vocal version playing alongside the musical instrumental version that you're doing, which is awesome.
Well, the other elements, like as I tried to get closer and closer, of course I'm not going to be able to get like an exact word to come out. Right. But the one thing that I can get to go in that direction is to copy the vowel sound. So every word has vowels, E, A, U, or whatever, whatever it is. And with pick harmonics, you can shape the note to create, to get go in that direction. And I found myself playing guitars with less frets. Like I've got some old Ibanez's that have a neck that's real similar to a Strat, 21 frets. And if you have less frets, you've got more room to do the pick harmonics. Okay. And that turned out to be a big deal. I would and also to create contrast. It's not like I'll find this one pick harmonic and I only do that. Because not every vowel is the same vowel. It's this constant contrast of trying to follow the vowel shapes as the vocal goes along. Right. So that was a big deal, and just learning to play horizontally in a way almost like playing slide, but without a slide. Okay. So a lot of the times I would be playing on one string and just sliding up and down, wearing a hole in my finger because I'm using the skin. Right. But that if you want to have a slide with your finger, it's there.
Mhm.
Where if you go from string to string, that option is gone. And so you want to lay it out on the guitar in such a way where you've got as many expressive options available as possible, so you can grab them if you need them.
Right, right. So with this, I mean, you basically put together a greatest hits of, Dio tunes, but you did it pretty selectively, because I think you did like a third of each era, right? The Rainbow, then obviously Dio and Dio Sabbath.
Yeah.
I think. What the list look like? I mean, that's insane. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that was left off that you probably wanted to include, but you had to probably cut, set a limit, right?
Well, it was fun to put it together, but I did swap some songs that went along.
Okay.
I'm really glad that Bill Ray, the drummer, because originally I didn't have stand up and shout on there. I was scared of it.
Right.
I just thought it's so fast. I'm not gonna be able to keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill's like, you got to do that one. That's one of the best Dio songs.
Right.
So he inspired me to do that one, and then also there were some songs, because I love the Rainbow Rising album so much,
Mm-hmm.
and songs like Light in the Black or Stargazer. Those are really tempting, but what I realized is like those have really long instrumental sections,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to focus on the vocals.
Right. Okay.
So like when I'm thinking about the Rainbow songs, I went for Man on the Silver Mountain because that's more vocal song. And the same thing with Sabbath. Like I love Sign of the Southern Cross,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just like this long instrumental part. And I thought, for how long that song is, I could probably get two shorter Sabbath songs. You get like Country Girl and
Right.
Lady Evil.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably going to be the same length as Sign of the Southern Cross, and I get two songs in there.
Is there any? Did you try to take a crack at We Rock? Because I would really be curious what you would come up with.
That was on the list for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing that comes to mind with that is the challenging thing about that is the chorus.
Yeah.
Because it's a one note chorus.
Yeah. Right.
And that's the hardest thing to make expressive.
Okay.
It's much easier to take like a dramatic melody that has a lot of movement in it, and that's easier to be successful with on an instrument.
Right. Right.
Where like the hardest thing would be like doing a Bob Dylan song where it's just like a one note melody. Yeah, there
you go.
That's you're not the singer's going to win.
Sure.
You're not going to be able to get the words, because the words are kind of what make it interesting rather than the melody.
Right.
So of course the verse on We Rock, that's got some good movement. So that's
right.
But the chorus, that's going to be a little more of a struggle.
That was the challenge.
It was on there, but I ended up doing stuff where I had more movement.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, that adds a little bit of the method to the madness type thing in the creation of this whole thing. Yeah. What was your first experience discovering Dio? Like, did you discover the Rainbow, the Dio, or Sabbath era? And what was it? What's your recollection of that?
As a kid, I know I had heard Man on the Silver Mountain on the radio, but I didn't really know who it was, because a lot of times on the radio they didn't say.
Sure.
And but I thought it was a cool song, but I didn't really know who it was. And then when then I heard Neon Nights when Heaven and Hell record came out, and heard that on the radio. I didn't know who it was because I was a Sabbath fan,
right?
But obviously it wasn't Ozzy, and I wasn't familiar enough with Dio to know it was him. So I was just like, who is this? This is a killer. And I found out, it's the new Black Sabbath album, and like, wow, it doesn't have Ozzy. Who's this Dio guy? But the album was so good. I ended up playing a lot of those songs in bands I was in. And then later, that album came out. I was in like 8, I was probably like 13. Couple of years later, I joined a band that had a B3 player, and we did a lot of Rainbow stuff. So that band introduced me to like Kill the King from the On Stage record, live version, and and then I really liked that, so I ended up buying the Rainbow Rising album and getting into more into the Rainbow. And that back then, like, records were expensive, so a lot of times I couldn't afford to buy the record. So if I joined a band, I would go to their house and whatever records they'd have, I'd tape them.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And so you'd slowly kind of get the catalog. Sure. And then another friend of mine, like, oh, he's got he's got Long Live Rock and Roll albums, so tape that. Yeah, so it was a slow discovery. And then by the time the Dio solo stuff came out, that was actually on the radio a lot, because KNAC. By that time, actually, the first album I was still living at home in Pennsylvania, but I bought that one right away, and that one blew my mind. Here, Stand Up and Shout came on. It was just like, this is fantastic. And I was in a cover band that had a singer that could sing high, so we used to cover a lot of that.
Oh, nice. What was the first Dio tune you ever learned to play on guitar and stuff? Oh,
wow. I'm thinking it was probably from the Heaven and Hell record.
Okay.
Because that's the first one I had. And like the riff to Heaven and Hell. I remember playing Children of the Sea.
Okay.
A lot. Neon Nights. I remember the band I was in, we used to do Heaven and Hell, and I had a delay pedal, so I could do this solo.
Right.
And that was. I wish I had some recordings of that.
That'd be cool. Hey, as far as things go there with Dio, I mean, is there a particular album that you think is underrated? You're probably more likely from the solo era, because I think the Sabbath records are pretty well renowned, and same with the Rainbow. It seems like those are the go-tos, right?
I think the solo Dio stuff, I mean, all the Vivian Campbell stuff I love. Even like there's sort of the poppier stuff, like Hungry for Heaven, or Rock and Roll Children, and the little more keyboard, or Rainbow in the Dark, a little more keyboardy. I love that stuff too. It's killer.
Yeah.
And then I think there are a couple of good Craig Goldie songs, though I can't remember off the top of my head. The Rowan Robertson record, Lock Up the Wolves, that was probably the last one that I kind of paid attention to. And I remember liking some of that. There was I can't remember if it was like the title track or whatever the first song was in that record. I remember being cool. After that, my musical interest kind of shifted. I was listening more like Janet Jackson and
there you go,
Mariah Carey, and I was getting into the divas.
There you go. No, that Craig Goldie record, well, he's done a few records, but that Dream Evil record's vicious. I mean, I think there's lots of crunchy stuff on that one for sure. So as far as this goes, though, I mean, do you plan on taking this out to the live setting at any point? Is there any talk of that, or would you even be interested in that? And what would that look like these days?
It would be more complicated for me, because usually I take out a really, like a 3-piece band, and the arrangements are just guitar, bass, drums. I think this stuff would require a rhythm guitar player at the very least. Right. And it would almost be nice to have a second lead guitar player to do the harmonies, because there's a fair amount of harmonizing that Dio did. So it'd need a larger band, and of course this year I'm also going out with Mr. Big. So I think I'd be more likely to go back in the studio and do a volume 2.
Well, I mean, is that something that's up for consideration then?
Well, there's such a, I mean, not only Dio, but I've got my long list of singers that I love to copy. So I'd have to see what mood I was in, because there's so many. It's such a gold mine of when you open that door of, like, rather than being in the guitar player's shoes, I'm going to step into the singer's shoes.
I'm guessing there's the idea of you doing a Queen one circling around in your head, don't you think?
Freddie Mercury's definitely on the list, and the harmonies would be pretty amazing. But I think. Often I think of the singers who are the furthest from my ability to copy as a singer. Like, like if I had to step up to a microphone and sing a Dio song,
Sure.
That would be a catastrophe. And where, not that I could sing a Freddie Mercury song,
sure,
but I might be able to get a little closer. Maybe one of the lower, things I could sing get through a verse or something.
Right.
Whereas like, the Boston album, like, if I did some Brad Delp stuff again, that's just so high that, or even like TNT with Tony Harnell.
Okay.
That stuff is fun to play on guitar because it's just like stuff that I know I could never get anywhere near this as a vocalist. But on guitar, all those limitations are taken away. Like the high note issue is no longer an issue. Like that problem is solved.
Right. Man, now that you brought up Boston, I'd love to hear your take on the debut record, just top to bottom.
Oh. Well, I did do on my last tour. I was doing Peace of Mind a lot, which I made an arrangement for that, and nice. it was great. That was what a great tune.
Yeah. As far as Mr. Big, I mean, we got to touch on that before we run out of time. But yeah, you mentioned Mr. Big. You guys have reconvened or will be reconvening and doing some shows. Obviously a tribute to Pat there as well. Tell me about that. How did you guys begin talks about getting back together and making one last run at this thing?
Well, to me, it just felt right. As simple of an answer as that is, that and having Nick DiVirgilio on board. I'd done a jam session with him at Sweetwater, where he does a lot of the drum video demos.
Right.
And we did a recording session. And it just felt so good. Like we were playing a pretty simple song. We did "Last Child" by Aerosmith, and I was playing all the Steven Tyler parts on guitar.
Oh, wow!
And we're playing it, and while we're playing it, I'm going like, man, Nick is just killing this. But at the same time, I thought, I wonder what he's thinking. Like maybe he's going like, oh, this is a little bit below my pay grade.
Right.
I'm a prog drummer. Why am I here playing this simple part? And after we played it, Nick came up to me and he said, man, I forgot how cool that groove is. What an awesome song and he was just totally into it. And that's the thing is like, I think one of the unique things about Mr. Big is like, it's a collection of musicians who, if we need to play a billion notes, we got that tool in the toolbox.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we all love songs and we love groove and so it's not like this unnatural need to fill up the space with a billion notes all the time.
Right.
And so it's Nick to me fits in really well with that. And plus he's a great lead singer, and that was an element of what Pat Torpey brought.
Sure.
That's really important.
Right. And you guys are going to do the Lean Into It record top to bottom, right?
Yeah, we've never done that before. So that's a great challenge and something. And that's my favorite Mr. Big record. So I
love that record. Yeah. I mean, and I know that, I picked up and I actually spoke with Eric when he was doing some promotion for the deluxe edition of that album. I mean, man, that record is a monster. Lots of hits. There's a little of something there for everybody, as you can tell by your number one single in there.
Well, it's funny that's another song that I've done playing the lead, playing the vocal part on guitar was "To Be With You."
Right. With slide. And there you go. Yeah.
And man, that's one of the best slide guitar lessons I ever had in my life. Was playing that one.
Tell me about the record. I mean, I know you said it's your favorite record. What's that record mean to you? And what do you think about the notoriety that record's had over the years, with the fans and even some of the casuals? That's the record to own, I think.
Well, there's the process and the result. And the process really felt good in that one. I was really excited as we were doing it. I felt we made a really big step forward in the songs being melodic. And being, and also at the same time being, having high energy for a live performance. And, of course, To Be With You, nobody expected that to become a number one hit. And it was, amazing to watch it do that. And it just, put us on it gave us the opportunity to travel, all of a sudden. We were doing gigs in Indonesia and Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and all these places I didn't know about. It was a geography lesson. So that was it really felt like a high point in our career.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, and you guys are going to roll out some more dates, right? Because you're going to do a pretty relatively extensive tour. Is that right?
Yeah, we have the summer shows in Japan and Asia, and then we're going to take a break until 2024, and then restart it then and hit everywhere else we can.
This all smells like there's an opportunity for a live record.
Well, live or maybe even studio, because with that 6 months in there,
right.
We might be able to rustle up something. So
sure.
We'll see as we get closer.
Is there stuff kind of in the archives at all that might have included input from Pat and stuff?
I mean, we released a lot of the archives, and we had like a big box sets that came out in Japan. I'm not sure if there's any. I mean, I was the one that had the home studio.
Okay.
When we used to write a lot, so I do have I transferred at the time it was ADAT, and I transferred all my ADAT stuff to Pro Tools, so I can go in and dig out unreleased stuff. But a lot of it, I mean, when I went back and listened to it, it's like it's cool riffs, but it is unfinished, and so I don't know. I won't know until it's done whether we use any of those ideas or just go for new stuff.
Nice. Hey, Paul, I'll have one more question, but we're going to plug the record, plug your socials, all that stuff. One of the questions that we typically try to end with is, what is something that we wouldn't know about Paul Gilbert unless you revealed it yourself?
Let's see. Well, I broke my hip.
No kidding, you did?
Yeah, 2 days ago I graduated.
Oh no! Oh no! I'm hoping. I hope it wasn't just going out to check the mail or something like that.
Almost. It was
really?
It was a snowstorm in Portland, and I was out taking a walk with my wife and son, and we were actually on a sled. And they started going faster, and we were on the road. I thought, I don't want them. I want to slow them down a bit, so I hopped in front. Whoop, bump.
Oh, ouch!
And off in the ambulance I went. So I'm more metal now because I'm held together by titanium.
Oh, that is awesome. The means isn't so awesome the way it happened, but hey, man, thank you for your time. I know the feeling. As we get older, there's more aches and pains, and we do become a little bit more fragile.
Yeah, and my trainer tells me I'll be full strength by the time the tour comes around. So
nice. Well, that's good news. Yeah. Hey, maybe we can connect prior to you doing some press for that. That'd be awesome. But hey, from one fellow Oregonian to another, we'll see you, man.
All right. Thank you so much. Rock and roll.
Take care. Right. Bye.